Thank you so much for having me. It's exciting to be here.
Oh, absolutely. Where are you calling in from today?
Oh, well, I am currently in New York. Some exciting news. We're finalists for Shorty Awards, which I think is a great punctuation on this conversation. Our incredible social team has been, just really engaging, and they got this momentous moment. So we're just here to celebrate and hopefully win. So really excited.
Well, I'm rooting for you, and you're in
Thank
great
you.
hands. You're going to be chatting with Meg Alexander, as I'm sure you know, who is
Yeah.
a fabulous fashionista. And look at us. Did we get this memo today? We're both just like, it's spring, girl. It's time to come out and have some fun.
Oh yeah, we all need a little bit of what Polynesia-ish in our lives. Absolutely.
Yes, yes, yes. We'll have a great talk, you two. I'm here in the
Thank
wings if
you.
you need anything.
Thanks,
Awesome.
Hunter.
Thanks, Hunter.
All right, so Giovanna, Hunter read through your bio. So obviously we all understand we're dealing with a very impressive person here. And I was really intrigued by the idea of the honeypot, especially as, we talk about things like mental health and physical wellness. This is an area that can quickly become a bit gendered, I guess. And so I really appreciated that the honeypot, especially that the slogan is by people with vaginas for people with vaginas. So I thought this was really cool. Now let's talk about a little bit more about the honeypot. How do y'all perceive and communicate wellness there? Like if we're talking about the idea of wellness, what does it mean to the honeypot?
Yeah, so I think it came from the thesis statement, and candidly the experiences that a lot of humans have, that there's this broad commercialization of wellness, and moreover there's exclusivity, right? So whether it's the kind of laundry list of things one can do that inevitably have some assigned cost to them, or just this idea of never doing enough and really reaching that kind of apex of wellness. And so for us, it was, how can we essentially deconstruct that notion, decommercialize wellness whilst providing better for you products and an immense amount of education? And education is certainly like our foremost product. So for us, wellness is the ability to have the agency to make decisions for yourself that improve your health. And so that could be anything as banal and fundamental as drinking a lot of water, and or more of what the brand does from kind of a product and innovation lens of caring for one's vulva and vagina, which we do see as not only the catalyst for a lot of other funky things happening, but an opportunity to introduce humans to what building a ritual looks like, what prioritizing your wellness is, what it looks like to be cognizant of the ingredients you put in and around your body. So for us, it was empowering voices and bodies that are often misrepresented and or not represented or included in the modalities of wellness. And one could argue that those modalities are in fact stolen from kind of that ancestral place. And so for us, it was taking all of those things and reigniting and re-empowering our community to engage with them, all kind of emanating from the vagina, which is, again, often really just celebrated in these weird milestones for some humans, right? It's just like, can I have a child? Can I, can I have sex, right? And so what we found is that a lot of humans actually learn about experiences with their vagina through the acts of sex because something goes awry and they're like, oh, wow, I have this whole ecosystem down here and need some help. How do I do that? And so for us, it was, again, taking those core tenets of sort of, deconstructing, you could even go so far as to say like decolonizing wellness, and then re-empowering it and giving education to humans. And ultimately, whether they purchase the honeypot or not, that's not the main motivating factor. The main motivating factor is access to information.
Yes. I mean, you hit like several really amazing points there. And one of the things that I think is really interesting and something that is very pertinent to talk about here is this idea of commodification of wellness, because once you have made something into a commodity, then there is a supply and a demand for it. And there will always be people that want it that don't have it or can't access it. I also absolutely love that you touched on kind of that decolonizing, because you're right, there is so much in a lot honestly of different communities that has been taken, the knowledge has been taken, or the agency to do that has been taken, or it never existed for those people. And so I think it is, I love that this is an aspect that y'all are considering, because that idea of wellness not being for some people, you know what I mean? Like some people are just shut out of the conversation, like that needs to stop.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about ways to incorporate wellness into a different org. Let's say you're coming from somewhere and you want to try and make sure that wellness is like a part of the ethos of your company. How do you think other brands can thoughtfully incorporate this into their mission and marketing in a way that is not just, it's not just words?
Absolutely. Well, I think it comes back to that thesis statement that I led with. So, what is your thesis statement? And is it potentially counter to what's being commodified? Is it a build on that commodification in a way that's responsible? I think responsibility is the key word here, right? Are you being responsible for that human's wellness throughout their continuum of life experiences, right? Like, we are a business, there's a bottom line. And so I don't want to kind of minimize the value of that kind of impact as well. And that is a driving force for us. And so I think it comes back to a few key things is one, that thesis statement. What is your definition of wellness? Is it the idea of, people, working out a ton? Is it the idea of them being well in their familial environments? Like, where do you want them to be well? And then ultimately, what is that kind of application of wellness, right? So for us, we know that we want people to be well, starting with their vagina, again, having that like connection to their body, and that we want that to then permeate into the rest of their existence. And so for us, that's creating concentric circles around that thesis statement. So a human with a vagina does a multitude of things. And what are some of those things that they're deeply passionate about? So being able to take wellness beyond that prescriptive element and saying, these are the other applications and things that these, our core demo or the brand is trying to signal. And so I think that the, kind of perfect segue for us is that the Reclaiming Wellness campaign that we built, I'll kind of go through the foundation of that, was rooted in this idea of self-care as an active community, right? So self-care is the way that you show up in communication and connection with other humans. That we fundamentally believe. If you are not well, the humans around you are not well, you're showing up in a nasty way. That's just not the way, we kind of want those, we don't want our humans to have those kinds of levels of engagement. And even as I previously mentioned, if you were thinking about something like a sexual experience, right? That act of caring for yourself is immediately translated to the way that you show up with a partner, right? So when we thought about kind of the self-care as an active community, the immediate pillar naturally was community. So how are we bringing wellness to communities in an active way? And for us, one of the main, sort of inflection points in our experience as a brand is Black History Month. We are a Black-owned brand, and it is a moment for us to actually sort of loosely step away from some of the brand kind of product forward selling moments. Sorry, I'm receiving a call. Okay, it'll be
Honestly, we can't even hear it, so don't stress.
Okay, so it's just me. It's just like rilling in my ears. So the community being the first pillar, so this idea of Black owned, Black History Month, and then being able to be in engagement with our community. So we thought, okay, how about we show up at HBCUs and have a masterclass series where we can delve into education. That segues. The next pillar of wellness is education, as I've said numerous times at this point. Being able to educate and inform is of the utmost importance, and really making sure that people have the inputs needed to make decisions. And then the last element of that is engagement, right? So you want other people to be philosophically aligned with the mission and moreover invested in inevitably the product that you're selling. And so that arc of the campaign is really how we thought of, bringing to life Reclaiming Wellness, making it sort of this splash in the confines of Black History Month, but then also generating that same investment as an evergreen campaign. And so that's one thing that I want to make sure that I'm flagging for those of you who are looking to build campaigns, that it's very easy as a marketer to want to have that kind of flash in the pan, really massive moment. The thing that I always want everyone to reflect on is, how can that generate into an evergreen opportunity or something that your brand really stands by and isn't just this one-off moment? And so we've translated Reclaiming Wellness in a multitude of ways because it is built on the pretense of everything our brand stands for.
Oof, I'm getting chills from honestly like so many of the sentences that you're sharing with us today. Okay, let's dive in a little bit more on the Reclaiming Wellness campaign. I know you have a slide to share with us for
I
some
do.
visuals on this.
I do. Okay, so let's see how proficient I am in this domain. Let's do the things. Screen sharing is my least favorite exercise, if I'm being completely honest here. So we're going to go into a full screen mode here and get to the tippy top of this. So as I mentioned, again, knowing that this is happening for Black History Month, this is kind of this celebration. One of the things that we were really mindful of was the progression of the campaign, right? So we started with history, as it makes sense. Year one of Reclaiming Wellness was really rooted in this idea of Black humans going from the caretaker to back to a place of self-care. So often having been stripped of those moments to care for themselves because they were either, heads of their family, or they were caretakers for their kind of in their professional domain, etc. And so this idea of reclamation came from that action, from being a caretaker to prioritizing self-care. And so again, we use the connection of self, mind, body, and soul as that idea of what self-care means to us. And so this year we walked into how can we punctuate the amazing and vast realities of what Black humans have impacted. And so that was one of the key motivators, wellness being, community, and the information that's been missing for your life. And then really trying to instill and create those moments of joy in education. And so how that came to life for us was in two distinct ways. So for community, we hosted HBCU masterclasses, which I mentioned previously, in partnership with Target, which is really major. They are one of our largest retail partners and have been incredible partners in distilling education and prioritizing that both as a brand and kind of through the community activations. So we popped up at Clark Atlanta, Howard, Prairie View, and CAT, and had these like splash moments where humans actually participated in a panel with B, our incredible CEO, co-founder, and chief innovation officer, and other really, really phenomenal humans to have a conversation on what reclaiming wellness meant to them and what it meant to kind of go through this journey of self-discovery, and then also be able to deeply underscore the work that they're doing now as a way to give them a platform for how all of these nuggets of knowledge and truth have been impactful to them. We touched over 2,000 humans at these events, which was massive for us. And then also to be in conversation with college students is a rare experience, right? So to have that, like, for college kids to show up on like a Friday night to go to an event of this nature with such massive passion and interest. I mean, some of the events kind of carried on for hours because there were just such a slew of Q&As. And then one of the things that we're always really mindful of as well when it comes to community is it's not just about making that footprint of who can participate in person. And, I think Power to Fly is a beautiful example of access can be dynamic, right? And so we took a lot of those panel discussions and translated them into our podcast, which is the Honey Potluck you'll see there. So it gave this kind of constant access to our audience, and then those who are potentially interested in learning about this topic. And then on the right-hand side, you'll see here like how education disseminates for us. So we have a blog on the honeypot.co called The Journal, where we're constantly, sharing information naturally about wellness, vaginal wellness, etc. But in these moments of the kind of campaign are really meeting with these humans to have conversations on what decolonizing wellness means to them. How are they prioritizing themselves? And then this beautiful essay written by B that was featured in Marie Claire of how my journey of self-discovery unlocked advocacy for Black women. And so again, this all being very much the kind of genesis of or reflecting on the genesis of what this campaign meant, and then also has empowered us to start envisioning what the future of this campaign is. And I think at this point, the future is, or like if we're looking to next year, which if my team is here, they'll probably be like, oh gosh, she's already ready to go, is the future of reclaiming wellness, right? So being able to partner and examine and work with Black humans and Black owned brands on what they're doing to perpetuate us, like the community forward. And I think that that is really exciting. And it's allowed for us to kind of compartmentalize the strategy, but also to be as inclusive and intentional in crafting it.
No, I think that you make some amazing points here, and I absolutely love that so much of this has been intentional, has been, something that you've thought about outside of, the client experience. And I keep coming back to this idea that, like, the stuff that you're sharing with people, like, is stuff that we should have learned earlier, right? Like, these are, it just keeps like kind of echoing in my head that so much of like what I have now learned about like caring for my body, I never had to think about until I was sexually active. And so like there's so much about my own body that I never knew because it was not taught to us in schools. And you're right, it gets like sensationalized somehow. Like me having curiosity about my own body somehow means like something about me as a person.
Total. Well, it's
Yeah.
I mean, just as simple as like when I say the word vagina, whether it's in this forum or people ask me what I do for a living, and I'm like, so blasé at this point of calling the anatomical thing, that it does immediately come across as lewd or explicit. And I am really passionate about if like we can start there by just eradicating that like discomfort, that we could start maybe empowering some change and creating some real difference. So I think it really starts with the small stuff. And I think even with kind of to the prior question of what brands can do, is I think it's really about starting small, because there has been such a failure. There is such a discrepancy in the broader education of what we learn and how we learn it.
Yeah, no, 110%. Okay, so let's talk about some of this messaging. Are there any channels where you feel like the messaging and the mission have been more or less impactful, for the org?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a fantastic question. I think, I think it comes back to like how we define as like what we define impact as. I think generally speaking, the brand has had tremendous momentum, and also just that deeper affinity, which is very uncommon for a vaginal wellness brand. I mean, yes, we know of the namestays and massive brands that have been in the space for quite some time, but we're not following them on social, we're not engaging with them in dynamic layers. And so I think that if I were to kind of minimize so much of the efforts, it's like the fact that we've been able to do that is just tremendous, kind of period. The things that we find less impactful are probably some of the barriers that are imposed by like societal norms, i.e., our inability to run paid advertisements on TikTok because our website is deemed explicit, right? It's more of these like walls that we get kind of put up against because the brand is so unapologetic and so dynamic and so education forward, that there's still a bit of antiquity in the world in general that is hindering us from making that like global impact. But I would be hesitant to say that there has been anything that like has been more or less, fruitful. I think for us, we're still very much a kind of high growth, small team, incredibly agile. And so I think that we employ a test and learn philosophy that has worked really well for us. But I don't think that we think of a barometer of like more or less impactful. We just think like if it is hitting both the brand tenants, kind of the demo needs, and then has some inevitable return, that is in fact a success. So I'm not certain that I'm looking at things through that lens as like a proxy for success.
Okay, I like that. And it makes a ton of sense because you're right. A lot of it is the messaging that you're kind of fighting against. And women or women presenting people, our bodies have always been sexualized in ways that men's or male presenting figures are not. And so I think you're right. There is a lot of that kind of stigma that you're fighting against because it's education. It should be clear, but because of the terminology used and because of all these like, societal conventions that we've had, for so long. It does make sense that the system is not built to help you advance through this. So you are already and knowingly fighting against a system that doesn't want this to be a thing. So,
well, what's interesting is that there are just brands in our space that have contributed to that system, right? So like that is the interesting kind of thing that you're always playing with as well, because we do not believe that vaginas should smell or look a certain way. We're sort of, kind of that's all antithetical to really what the honeypot is rooted in. And so I think that even that is a knowledge gap of sorts that we're kind of constantly figuring out how to not fight, but how to temper, so that there can be like a redirection and a reassessment on behalf of the human or the consumer to really like not feel like their body parts or their experience should be dictated by 100-year-old pretense.
Yeah, no, very, very good point here. Let's see. We've got comments coming in from the chat thread here. Angie Wesley says, I love Honeypot. This is such a great campaign, especially as a holistic wellness and empowerment coach. Brett Hall Brett Hall also commented, this has been great to listen to, by the way, because my partner is an OBGYN in public sector. I believe she would be really interested in learning more about this. So thank you, y'all, for those comments. If you have questions that you would like to ask Giovanna, please send them in. We've got a couple more minutes here in case you have anything that you'd like to know. Okay, let's talk about the future of wellness. What does this look like? What do you think it means for yourself as well as for the Honeypot?
Yeah. So I think for me, I think what we're going to see, which, perhaps seems kind of in contrast to what I led with, but is going to be the sort of mass adaptation of healing or ancient healing modalities. And so insofar as I think that they will find a deeper integration into Western medicine. So I do believe that that's the direction that we're headed in. If you look at some of the cute tech brands that are doing a really great job of sort of, diversifying and or furthering the vision of what healthcare can be like, there's this idea of whole body care, and that sitting with a human for 15 minutes, which is, the allotted time that insurance provides, is just not enough to get a true assessment on their care plan. And so I do feel I feel very passionate that there's a tremendous amount of room for that, but I like in terms of being able to impact all layers of society. But I do think that that's very much the future. I think as is, relevant to the honeypot is certainly the fact that we are continuing to prioritize super innovative ingredients. We are plant derived, which is, no easy feat. And so the more that we can continue to integrate plant medicine into the products that we do, that remain both efficacious and better for you, that is really the future of the brand, is just the ability to be ahead of the curve on ingredients that serve our humans. I think from kind of a pure marketing perspective, the future is of the brand is advocacy. I think that we have so much to say, so much, groundwork in the vein of education, so many areas that we have kind of been the igniters of, that I think that, our ability to be advocates and to kind of design community activation will be the future for us.
Oof, I love looking towards the future to see, where we think this might go. Nobody's got a crystal ball, but the guesses or the educated guesses that I get from my speakers today have been really, really excellent. So thank you, Giovanna.
My pleasure.
All right. Now, we're almost out of time, but if people are going to take just one thing, if they only remember one thing from today's session, what do you want that one thing to be?
Oh my goodness. Nothing in life is one size fits all. And just make sure that you are always asking the questions, always doing what is in service of yourself, your organization, your marketing efforts, etc. I think it's really easy to get sort of distracted by what the competition is doing, or this cool thing or that cool thing, and then it actually doesn't allow for much space for you to do to be the steward of what's new and what's relevant. If it really comes from your heart and is something that you are deeply aligned to, that communicates for sure.
Yes. Oh, absolutely love this. All right. So before we go, I know you have a slide with a QR
Oh yeah,
code on it.
my other slide.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So I
Go ahead and
wanted to
share
make
your
sure
screen.
that I was leaving the audience with a little something something so you could explore more of the honeypot's magic. So little QR code that I'm going to again do a terrible job of sharing my screen. But if you want to go ahead and scan this QR code, it should give you access to more about the brand and a little treat. So certainly hope that you'll all join us, whether that's on, exploring our products, engaging with us on social. We really are passionate about the work we're doing here. And I think as a commercial consumer forward brand, it's really evident to see that we are trying to do more than, just sling products. So there you go.
Excellent. Thank you so, so much, Giovanna. It's been
Thank
wonderful to get your
you.
time and expertise. Absolutely loved it.
Yes, such a pleasure. Thank you all so much.